It can be difficult to make a narrative game stand out in a game jam that's full of puzzle platformers and first-person shooters. At the GMTK Game Jam in 2025, a new category opened up called the narrative category. Additionally, voting changed so that you would be ranked within your category, but there were no ranks given out overall. This change ended up being an incredible opportunity for me and other narrative game designers. Hi, my name is May Finch, and I created a narrative game for the 2025 Game Makers Toolkit Game Jam called Soul Date. I'm here to tell you what that process was like as someone that had never done a game jam before, and what I might do differently next time. So this game jam only lasted 4 days, and I knew on the first day I really needed to create a working prototype. I started out thinking about how I would apply the theme of the game jam, loop. It's pretty easy to create a narrative game that uses loops to force you down dialogue trees that you haven't taken all the paths for yet, but I really wanted to try something different with the dialogue and make it loop in a way that wouldn't be too repetitive, but would still be a new experience for the player. So my initial idea was to create a fantasy game where you are two guards kind of arguing how to deal with a scary scenario, and you would get to select the dialogue choices on both sides of that conversation. Now, the main way that this works is by having your first dialogue selection be stored in a variable, and then that variable is fed into the second layer of dialogue that you see on the second loop and determines what dialogue options you have on that second loop. Basically, that just makes sure that your first choice actually matters and changes what your options are on the second loop, and make sure that what your options are to apply to that first dialogue option are options that actually make sense and seem to be a natural response to that first dialogue choice. By day 2, I had completely pivoted. I was finding it very difficult to tell an engaging story that still made sense using this fantasy guard kind of story that I was starting down the path of. So I decided to try something completely different, and I created a dating sim. This is a psychic dating sim, and I went with something a little bit supernatural and magical to kind of have a in-game explanation for that core looping mechanic. So I really wanted to have a justification for it in the game, not have it be just kind of this arbitrary mechanic. And the way I decided to do that was once your speed date starts, your partner's options or what your partner is saying is complete gibberish to you. Again, I use this text that is just these kind of characters that don't make any sense. And you have to blindly choose dialogue options, not knowing what your partner is saying. Then something magical, mystical happens, the table flips around, suddenly you're facing yourself and you're responding to the dialogue options that you chose initially, and just trying to make your way through this date that's quite literally on fire. This seemed to work a lot better. It was funny and kitschy, which is the kind of tone I like to go for in my games, and it was a much better prototype compared to my end of day 1. So day 3 was about fleshing out this story, creating bigger loops, making it feel like a full-size game, or at least as full-size as you can get in a game jam, where generally you want to shoot for someone being able to play your game for at least 5 minutes. So day 3, I was able to build out all of these loops. I ended up creating 3 sets of looping conversation, and then I wrote out the sort of end and climax to the story, which I'll get to on our review of day 4. But here I just created some more placeholder art. I tackled a few things that I want to tackle mechanically that I knew would be a bit more difficult, things I didn't want to leave to just the day of kind of polishing things up on day 4. For instance, in a dating sim, usually you can state a dating preference, and I had drawn up some mock-ups of masculine and feminine characters as well as characters that were non-binary. And I wanted to have a way where if you did, as a player, have a dating preference, you could actually state that in game and make it a bit more immersive. So I coded that in. It ended up being surprisingly difficult just because it meant I couldn't serve someone a random character. They had to get a specific character in each of these kind of gendered groups, but I did it. I made it work. And I also started getting a bit more creative with my dialogue boxes and figuring out how I would color code things to make it really obvious that you're talking to your partner or you're applying to your initial dialogue options. Now, day 4, which I'm about to show the video for, was so much drawing. I drew all day. I had to plug my iPad into a special like battery box just to keep it running. My hand was super sore by the end of it, but I did manage to create full color artwork for the entire game. And I even had time to fix some of the last minute bugs that I wanted to fix and create a more stable UI so that the text boxes wouldn't sometimes overrun the bounds of the text box and some other little bugs like that. And by the end of day 4, our last day, I had an actual loading page with my logo and the GMTK Game Jam logo. I was able to create artwork for our illustrious fortune teller. I really wanted to go with a very colorful but grungy style, and I was able to find some really good royalty-free music from Kevin MacLeod and The Awkward Daughter that had a kind of heavy, not like hard rock, but I guess heavy alternative rock style to it, as well as some like more moving emotional tracks I was able to put in the climax of the game. As you go deeper and deeper into these dialogue loops, the questions and responses get a lot deeper. I wanted to simulate an actual date in that way, and I wanted the player to feel like they'd actually gotten somewhere emotionally by the end of these dialogue loops and have the opportunity to talk about difficult things like loneliness and self-love and how we navigate loving someone else when we struggle to do so with ourselves. By the end of the last dialogue round, the fortune teller reveals that you, as you have been doing as a player, as a character, have also just been talking to yourself. She does this as a way to kind of make sure people coming to date are in a position to be open to love and capable of talking about these heavy topics. You're given the opportunity to actually go on a date after that, and that is the end of the game. I was very happy to dedicate this game to my partner Alex, who's helped me navigate a lot of the things I wanted to touch on in this game. Evan Stevenson has acted as my art advisor on this game and many others. She's taught me so much about art and has been on standby to provide advice and critique on my art for my games, and I'm just very appreciative of her. So that was the game. That was the end of the day. After that, it was time to start playing everyone else's games and start voting. I will say, if you sign up for a game jam and if you're a developer, I really hope that you do. It's a really valuable experience. Please join the Discord, be active in the Discord or whatever chat group you have for that game jam. I felt so much community during the week of voting. I got to have a lot of really valuable conversations about my game and other people's games in the chat. And I feel like I grew a lot as a game developer, obviously through everything that I just showed you, but mostly through getting other people's insight on my game and learning a bit more about what drives other developers and what kinds of things they think about as they develop. Once that week of voting was done, the scores came out, and that is when I was just shocked and so amazingly humbled to see that I had placed in the top 100 for the narrative category, which had been like my big goal going into this. I placed number 58. I did pretty well in creativity and artwork as well. Again, this was my first game jam ever, so I had very low standards for myself, and I was really proud of where I was able to get to. If you would like to play Soul Date or any of my other games, you can do so at maythefinch.itch.io. I highly recommend my newest game, Colder. It is a winter solstice themed riddle solving mini game, And it was really fun to put together because I got to write all of these riddles from scratch. They're all unique riddles written by me. And the subject of the riddles are cherished objects that people in the community sent me. And it was really wonderful and human to hear about these objects and what people hold dear. So if you want to experience that for yourself, go check out Colder. Thank you for listening to me talk about my game jam experience. I really hope that you'll join a game jam as well, and maybe I'll even see you in the 2026 Game Makers Toolkit Game Jam. For now, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and take care of one another.